Beardy and the Beast Media Club.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. This is a placeholder intro song.
Thank you for joining us for Beardy and the Beast Media Club, a full spoiler discussion into a piece of media. We will come at you with those spoilers like a giant bullet bill. If you enjoy what we do, please rate the video or podcast or join the conversation in the comments or at our Discord. My name is Drewigi, and of course, it's a him, Devio. Today we'll be discussing 2023's film adaptation of the video game series The Super Mario Brothers. So Devin, was this film powered up, or was its princess in another castle?
For the most part, I'm gonna have to say it was powered up.
Hey, me too.
Yeah. Overall, I quite enjoyed it. There was a couple of things that I wished they didn't do, but yeah, overall, liked how they did it. I always wondered how you could translate Super Mario Brothers into a film, and I think they did very well at keeping the feel of the games at the same time.
Yeah, I think this direction is the best direction that they could have gone with to port like the Mario universe over to the silver screen. Because frankly, what it could have been would either be just so hyper tragic, like the worst possible end result is not unlikely. I guess the way that these adaptations usually go, or like conversions, etc.
Yeah.
Whereas the best possible occurrence would be rare.
Yeah. This is probably one of the best video game adaptations I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, we know what that pool is like, but we've also covered some pretty good game adaptations on the channel and some pretty bad ones. Looking at you, Silent Hill, in both cases. Honestly, the biggest thing that bothered me about the film overall was the music. Very specifically, the fact that they had songs in there. Like, I'm sorry, I do not need to hear Aha's Take on Me while they're driving around in carts. That does not make any sense, doesn't need to be there. And it hit me particularly hard because, like, just the opening shot with Bowser's Castle coming in and just that bit of the Mario 3 airship soundtrack just immediately brought me back. And I just wish they stuck with that and not bothered putting in any 80s rock.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, like, I think they were trying to go for that being part of the nostalgia bait, but I think it was a miss.
Yeah.
I think they would have been, like, if they did Take on Me remix, like Super Mario Brothers remix, like, kept it kind of 80s, but then used, like, samples from the Mario Brothers that you could definitely, like, tell that it was inspired by, that'd be a different case.
Yeah. I want my Mario Paint version.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like, when it got into the music, it started feeling a little too Shrek and not enough Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes.
And it should have definitely went the Wreck-It Ralph way.
Yeah.
Where it missed for me is actually has to do with Wreck-It Ralph.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed Wreck-It Ralph.
It's a good movie.
I didn't see the second one.
It's all right.
The humor and the nostalgia bait and the references all were paced very well in Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes.
And where it had similarities to, say, Shrek was there was a little bit for the kids, there's a little bit for the teens, and there's a little bit for the adults. I think in the second movie, the only clip that I've seen is where the girl character is with all the princesses.
Yeah.
And they're like, were you kidnapped? Were you imprisoned? like all this stuff, and it's like, do you guys need help? Like,
Yeah.
I felt that Mario Brothers needed a little bit more of that.
Okay.
Uh, and the reason why, I guess, to like fully tangent but fully related. So I walk up, kind of like look at my way, like I got the beard right now, I got the face piercings, I had my hood up because it was cold and I didn't bring a toque or a
Yeah.
hat. And I walk in and like, you know me, like I got RBF for sure. Like I always kind of look like I'm angry. Um, really, I just have bad eyes. um, so I walk up and the guy behind the counter kind of looks at me and he leans over a little bit. He's like, "Hey, can I help you?" I'm like, "Yeah, buddy. Can I get one ticket for Super Mario Brothers movie?" And then he looks at me and then he starts smiling. He's like, "Yeah, bro, I got you." Um, and then we're kind of like chit chatting because the card machine's taking forever.
Yeah.
And he says to me, it's like, yeah, sure, like the kids seem to really like this movie, but the people that seem most excited are like older men, especially specifically millennial men. I'm sitting there in the back of my head, I'm like, shots fired. So the the demographics that they hit well, definitely for the kids,
Yep.
even some stuff for the teens. But I think they missed out on the wink and a nod, Pixar. There's a like a little hinge of adult to this conversation that like kids won't get.
So I simultaneously agree with you and disagree with you.
Okay.
So simultaneously agree. I'll start there first. It doesn't have those adult parts.
Mhm.
The reason I disagree with that take on it is Mario has never had those adult parts. It's not Zelda, it's not Metroid, it's not Star Fox, it's not part of Mario.
Mm.
So I feel that was purposeful.
Okay. Like I respect the statement.
Yeah.
I just feel it would have flushed it out a bit more.
Mm.
Um, but to kind of go back the pacing of the nostalgia bait, it was all front loaded.
Oh god, there was so much in the front. Um like references just everywhere. Um it's interesting because I don't know if I mind the front loading of those references.
Mhm.
And the reason for this is it let them show where they came from. So you see Mario playing Kid Icarus. You know, they're in the Punch Out bar, and you have Little Mac and Glass Joe all on the wall.
Mhm.
You have I'm assuming is a bar called Duck Hunt in French.
Hmm.
uh, so they used Brooklyn to be able to put references in without taking away from the Mushroom Kingdom.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Right? It would have been weird if we had, Hyrule showing up, but it's not odd to see an R-wing in Mario's room, uh, which is interesting because it's one of the things that's been playing in my head actually since seeing it is fan service versus knowing your audience and knowing the source material.
Mhm.
And I feel like this was more the love letter
Mm.
and knowing the source material than the fan service because of the way they did stuff like that.
Well, I can tell you one thing that backs up is holy is Luigi was never a popular character.
Mhm.
Mostly because it was like the little brother syndrome. Like
Yeah.
you were Luigi because you were the second player.
Yeah.
So the big brother or the big sister or whatever is always the one who gets to be Mario because that's
Yeah.
the player one. But right out of the gate, like the first chance they got, they were paying homage to Luigi's Mansion.
Yes. I loved that.
And though it's a very popular game, in fact, that's like the breakout Luigi, whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, the fact that they made effort to express and represent Luigi as early as possible, and still keep within the story, while also uh, referencing like the various other Mario games.
Mm,
That exception made me very happy and makes me think, yeah, this is definitely closer to a love letter.
yeah. It, the Luigi's Mansion reference, I like how they played with it because it could have very easily been a boo that found
Mm,
him in the mansion, but no, it was a bunch of shy guys.
mhm,
Like it's that enough to go. It's like, yes, we know and we understand, but there's so much more in Mario.
mhm.
It was that nice subversion of expectations.
What I liked about the way that they were paying homage to the games is they didn't spend too much time within one environment, one game environment.
Yeah.
So like the running to do the plumbing thing when they were doing the full side scroller, and
Mm,
the
training montage.
well, also yeah, the training montage on the actual bricks, including like breaking through bricks,
Yeah.
or the Luigi's Mansion, or even the karting, which
Mhm.
honestly I could have done without, but I don't think it took away from the movie. Um, I think it was bordering on almost too long, but it was short enough that I don't think it took away from the whole piece. It was additive.
Mm. I liked how they referenced the games. The one thing I'm surprised that it was really interesting, like the Donkey Kong versus Mario fight
Mhm,
thing. Um, that one there is probably the only one that actually kind of felt a little odd to me
mhm.
because like it didn't know what it wanted to be. Did it want to be Donkey Kong, which it kind of did at one point? I think they should have gone Smash Brothers with it
I think they
because we never
were
actually had Smash Brothers at all.
well, I think they were torn between Smash Brothers and Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
It would have been full Donkey Kong if they had that shot where Donkey Kong was on the like a higher level and throwing barrels down at him.
Yeah.
But then it went Smash because it was just a fist fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Smash is more complicated than that, but it was trapped in this weird limbo between the two, and it didn't succeed at either.
Yeah. And I kind of see what you're saying about the cart scene as well. I,
Mm.
I think I think what happened with the cart scene is in a way we had two of them.
Mm.
Is because we had the introduction when they were in um I don't even know what they called it. Donkey Kong's Kingdom. Because they didn't go with country, they didn't go with land, which seemed odd to me. Um because we had that bit of a cart scene there where, it set up things like, the banana peel and the tight tracks and everything.
I wonder if the first one was actually a throwback to Diddy Kong Racing.
Uh, I
Either
th-
way, it's not really.
I think it was very Mario Kart, like
Mm.
even with the flying and such. Um, I think the fact that the Kongs were the ones doing the carts
Ah.
would be that tie back to Diddy Kong Racing, uh, without being direct, because the carts were very Mario Kart.
Mhm.
Like basically the loadout that Peach has when they get their vehicles. Yeah, no, that is my loadout when I'm playing Mario Kart. I found that really interesting. I think the Mario Kart scene, it was nice to have Rainbow Road, but it didn't quite feel Rainbow Road enough. And it might have been just because it didn't it didn't have the chaos in the same way
Mhm.
that Mario Kart does. It would have been interesting to see them actually trying to go and hit power ups or something to get the shells and such of the throwing. But the biggest miss that I had there was just Spike going blue shell. It's like you didn't need to say it. We all knew what was happening.
Yeah, it's usually the person getting hit saying blue shell.
Yeah.
The I do like how they kind of reinvented it, the Mario Karting a little bit. I was I was happy that they included a track skip.
Yes.
I was like, nice.
Yeah, I liked that.
But maybe because it wasn't a full-fledged race per se, it was a battle, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it didn't feel excessive. There was actual like action beats going alongside of it.
Mhm.
Because I don't,
Yeah.
except for hardcore fans, I don't really see Mario Karting on the big screen being that much of a draw.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't do it as a race. Like, I
Mhm.
remember seeing it on the trailer, and I'm like, "Okay, how is this fitting in?"
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I mean, they made it work. They made it "This is our shortcut,"
Mhm.
and just the simple fact that they're calling it a shortcut, it's like, yeah, all the Mario shortcuts and level skips and, uh so I found that worked well. I can see this in the back of my mind, like, oh no, they've got knocked off the track. Where's Lakitu to bring them back or something? And I'm kind of glad they didn't do it that way. But I mean that's just where my gamer mind goes, of course. I think it was neat to see how they do it. It's kind of amusing that it immediately took the Kongs out of the fight.
I
But
Well, that's one of the reasons why it was a love letter, because they actually reached into the Donkey Kong world and started bringing out characters more than just Diddy.
yeah,
Which, I
yeah,
mean, fun call out for Diddy, right? But like the whole Cranky Kong and Donkey Kong not actually being like the king and all
mhm,
these sort of things like are going a little bit more deep than what you would expect.
yeah,
And that just more proof that it was closer to a love letter.
yeah. And especially with Donkey Kong, it's one of those more interesting franchises
Hmm.
because Nintendo doesn't own all of the Donkey Kong characters. Rare owns a bunch of them too.
Hmm.
That's why in Smash Brothers it was such a big deal that they managed to get K. Rool finally, because Rare owns him, not Nintendo. Um, so no, it was neat in seeing like Dixie Kong and sitting there beside him too, and it's like it's nice seeing them. Pretty sure Funky Kong was there, and again, without having to call it out, without making it fan service. It's that blink and you miss it type thing, and
Just
I
coming
enjoyed that.
It's just coming to me now that Donkey Kong probably has the most flushed out universe in, or like flushed out story and characters out of all the like characters in the Mario universe.
In general, I would say yes. I think some of that is to do with, let me again, Rare. Like
Hmm.
Donkey Kong Country is, and all of this comes from Donkey Kong Country. Things that if you know the games, like Cranky Kong is technically the Donkey Kong from the Donkey Kong games, and then Donkey Kong is actually, I think it's actually Donkey Kong Junior or Donkey Kong Junior or Donkey Kong the Third. Can't quite remember which way it is. But I mean, we also had a very different show with Donkey Kong.
Hmm.
If you remember the computer animated Donkey Kong Country, is very different than the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. And it's like Donkey Kong 64 went with more of a narrative than Mario 64 did, even around the characters themselves.
Hmm.
Uh, so um, that being said, I loved the world designs of all these places. Seeing the flash of Yoshi Island was kind of neat. I loved the aesthetic of the Donkey Kong Kingdom.
Mm, yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
and I think with the aesthetics, because they did very well with copying the aesthetics of all of the generations of the Mario games, which is impressive in and of itself. We had the one thing that stood out to me a little bit was actually Peach's Castle, because it wasn't Peach's Castle from the games.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right, like the interior of it. Again, it's just such an iconic hub world. It felt a little off to me, but overall, I didn't mind it. And I mean, there's been multiple versions of that castle. Overall, it's just probably not the one that comes to most people's mind.
Yeah, but I mean, it also kind of leans in and adds an extra level of complexity to the your princess is in another castle joke.
Oh, I loved that joke. That was good. That was well done.
The
Uh,
jokes, the jokes that I really, really liked was the like The super depressive, like, blue star guy, whoever that was.
The little Luma. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Nihilistic Luma.
Like, to the point where I kind of want to get it tattooed on me.
Huh?
There's just something weirdly dark and endearing about him.
Because he sounds so cheerful when he's talking about it.
The sweet release of death. Well, honestly, and of course, like, I went to the movie at 4:40 showing or something like that. So,
Mhm.
like, there was some teens, but then there was, like, a bunch of kids, and of course they're laughing at all the, like, the younger stuff, but then that blue guy comes on screen, and I'm just howling. I'm, like, cackling from my little...
I think he was the adult part that you're talking about. Like it was just in that. I think that's about as adult as it could get while still staying
Mario.
Mario.
Yeah,
But
I mostly agree with what you were saying there.
yeah. But no, our little nihilistic Luma was amazing. Of course, in the back of my mind, it makes me think that Rosalina was going to show up as well, but alas, no. But in the future, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a future.
Oh yeah, there's
of these movies.
there's going to be a lot of movies.
Oh yeah. And then it's interesting because I know Nintendo basically went, nope, we're never doing this again with the absolute masterpiece that is um, Bob Hoskins' Mario Brothers.
Are you talking about the live action adaptation?
I am talking about that. But basically, they're like, nope, never again. And it's what 30 years.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. And it's interesting because this could potentially open the door for other franchises,
Okay.
right? It's like, maybe we will get some of that more adult things. Like maybe we will get something Metroid based, um, based off the success of this and like the Castlevania Netflix series.
Hmm.
It's like there's potential there. There could be potential there for Zelda, for Star Fox, because man, people think Metroid's been done dirty. Star Fox has one game. They've just done it 6 times.
The so out of all those, I think Metroid should be an anime series.
Mm-hmm.
I think Star Fox would, if done well, because I'm not a fan of it, but if done well, a cel-shaded 3D something,
Yep.
I think would be very good for it. And I mean, you can just skip Zelda because mid AF.
Well, while I disagree with you on the Zelda, that's honestly the one that I have the hardest time picturing a good adaptation of.
Yeah. Well, when in doubt, make it a musical.
Oh, I can't fight that logic. Zelda is, I don't know. There's, I don't think it necessarily has the narrative in the same way that you can. The timelines are all over the place. How do you pack as much as in most of those games into anything other than like probably a multiple season series?
Mhm.
Link, while he has a personality, it's a different personality depending on what Link we're talking about, and I think there'd be no way to do it that would make fans happy. Like as a general fan, the
Well,
Twilight Princess Link is very different than the Wind Waker Link, which is very different than the Skyward Sword Link, for example. Or
these are good points. I disagree with them as being the reason why it'd be so difficult
Hmm.
or it wouldn't translate well. I think the reason why it would be difficult or wouldn't translate well is because as much as I'm not a fan of the Zelda games, it's already at its pinnacle level of storytelling of that world.
yes,
So there's no way that you can improve upon it. Whereas you compare that against Mario and the actual limited amount of storytelling that's told in that outside of what paper or Mario RPG.
yeah,
Like even Donkey Kong is still very narrow in comparison.
Mhm.
The stories aren't as robust.
Yeah.
So you can improve, you can accentuate, and you can flush that out by jumping other media. But I think it would f- it would not hit the mark simply because it's already the pinnacle media type.
Yeah. Whereas again, um, Star Fox, I mean, it is a very cinematic
Mhm.
game. There, it's easy to take that and go, and here's the movie.
Exactly.
Um, uh, Samus, like Metroid, again, it's one of those things where there's so much character, but we know her character.
Mhm.
And when you look at things like Aeon Flux or something, it's like I could see them like honestly just doing Aeon Flux with Samus.
Mhm.
There's like no dialogue. It's just her going and tearing up things.
Well,
Uh,
that's why the Castlevania mentioning Castlevania is so apt because
mhm.
that is the direction I'd prefer Metroid to go, opposed to like a full scale movie.
Yeah,
Unless
that's
you
exactly.
go anime style, like series and then a couple like OAVs.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is exactly how I would see that going.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the reason why they pushed this to be a movie, I don't think it was money based. I think they were just tired of anime and they were just like, move over, Ray Earth. Mario is the greatest isekai.
Yep. I approve. No, I think it was I lost my point now, thanks. It's interesting that just talking about like how much characterization there is around some of these Nintendo characters, even
Mhm.
without necessarily having the stories around it. I mean, I know I've seen some videos talking about the characterization not so good. It's like, what were your thoughts on how they brought these characters to life?
uh, it's it was in tune with the primary demographic.
Mhm.
It didn't necessarily reimagine them in a negative light.
Mm.
Uh, in total, and it's one thing that I want to talk about later. But in total, there's nothing special about the story or characters, which is negative. But I made the joke in the Discord when you told everyone we were going to go see Mario and then do a quick cast out of it. It's a me, stereotypio. You want to commit vehicle or vehicular homicide? Uh, because that's what you expect. Like you expect a full stereotype Mario, and the fact that they were like they start out with the oh this is what you're gonna get, and then they
Yeah,
just went no, it's just literally just a Brooklynite.
yeah.
It's not some Italian stereotype except for maybe like the family dinner or
Yeah.
whatever, but they actually tried to do it right by a character. Like, am I
Mhm.
really gonna be interested in a movie where Mario just runs around going, "Woohoo! Yup, yup." Like they threw a little "It's a Me" in there, probably one too
Yeah.
many "It's a Me's,"
Mm.
but I don't think they did the characters dirty. And as far as I know about Peach, I think it was positive direction they took her character.
Mm. Yeah, I overall agree with that. I think of the of the main characters, I think Peach and Mario were actually the characters that I kind of could go either way for me.
Mhm.
Um, but I think there's good reason behind that, and it's because of the Mario cast, the Mario world, they literally have the least personality.
Yes.
So, because I've seen some videos and such are like, oh, these characterizations. I'm like, I don't like what. Oh, Peach's girl boss. Like, Peach is a ruler of a kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, I think she might have been a little more forceful than I would have imagined, but I mean, it also wasn't Super Princess Peach.
Well, that's the thing. I think you hit the nail on the head of that. Like, did they not expect a, a princess, a ruler of a kingdom, in a wartime situation, or like even outside of that, from the video games, she keeps getting abducted by
Hmm.
armies. Like, do not expect her to have some fierceness.
Yeah.
I have no problem with a girl boss character because I think they didn't overdo it.
Yeah.
She was wholly her own character who seemed to have like a unique personality outside of the girl boss. The girl boss was not her defining character trait.
No, it was how she needed to be because, as you very rightly pointed out, wartime.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very easy to focus on just that wartime Peach, whereas I like to focus on the training montage Peach.
Well, and that's like the
Where,
duality of personality. Like, she tried to console Mario because he didn't get it right away,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
of course the joke, it's like, you got it right away, and she's like, I did, but I grew up here. Like,
yeah,
I understand these powers you get.
yeah. It's interesting because, like, I think some of the quote unquote girl boss parts, which, and I know that people are saying that as a slur. Is that the right word? Yeah, as a negative.
Like a detrimental comment.
Yeah, and I think it worked. I think if that was her entire personality, I would only disagree with it because it was Peach, because that's something I would expect more out of Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just that. But again, we have more characterization for Zelda generally. And the same thing with Mario. It's like we don't really have a personality around Mario. He's just he is the definition of a blank slate.
Yeah, he's the neutral mask, right?
Yeah. And that being said, I think they did it well. Just adding on that bit of, it's like, no, he cares about his family and such, which we don't really get in the
They
games themselves.
Well, yeah, and they did flush him out a little bit while still making him vague, so that you
Mhm.
could project upon him.
Yeah.
So that's where the movie, like, it's one of the points that it becomes successful, because in these action adventure movies, especially for kids, you need to be able to project yourself on to like the primary protagonist.
Mhm.
And that's probably some of the problems that they were having with Peach. They still left her a little bit blank,
Yeah.
because you want the little boys and girls to be able to project themselves onto Mario and Peach.
Yeah.
That way they'll buy the merchandise and watch the movie a second time. And it's actually a good form of, it's good for the storytelling. Being able to project yourself onto a character or that neutral mask is like literally one of the primary factors as to why Star Wars is so huge.
Mhm.
Like, Luke is one of the defining neutral masks.
And what it is you still give them their own character traits.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a generic, it's the Mario will literally fight a, giant gorilla over a pit, knowing that this is probably not going to go well because I don't know this world, to save his brother.
Mm-hmm.
I loved when like the arc they did with Luigi, basically, where it was always Mario stepping in between,
Mm-hmm.
which was fantastic because you don't get that in the games.
Mm-hmm.
And to have Luigi step in so Mario could get the star.
Mm-hmm.
It's a it's good to see that character growth even when he's not the character we're focusing on necessarily in the film. It was nice to see that. And it was like, oh, he's so brave. It's like, yes, I am. It was kind of touching. It was nice to see.
Yeah, it was a
And
little teary moment for me.
yeah.
I
And,
I have a lot of problem with the video essayists and the talking head commentators and like the social media gurus harshing on this type of character. Let's bring this movie down to its most basic thing. It is a love letter to the Mario games, but this is primarily a movie for children. It's was also an hour and a half long or whatever,
yeah.
which is wonderful.
It really was.
Um, there is no need in this story for there to be a series of complex character traits and conflicts, and like Luigi actually betrayed his brother, and Mario, like, I don't know, the police at the end walk out of Mario's apartment with his laptop in a clear plastic bag. Like they're not making a trip to Florida.
Yeah.
This it's a children's movie.
Yeah. And I'd like to clarify, because I mean, some of those talking head video essayists you've talked about have also tried to defend bad movies by saying it's a kids' movies with space wizards, because kids' movies doesn't mean bad. It means it's targeted. It has a tone.
You literally can't go too complex because it takes away from the story as the child is perceiving it. Like, this is a science.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I know you mentioned earlier, it's like, yeah, it's kind of a simple story, but it's like, it was a simple story that was executed well.
Exactly.
And that's what matters. You can make complex, but you don't always need to. It's kind of nice, going back to basics. And I mean, Illumination Studios doing it's like, yeah, Despicable Me is all right, but it's not like I've watched many of their films. and I don't know. I think they did very well with it. The other character, because the other one that was mentioned a lot, outside of Peach being a girl boss, was Bowser being a simp.
He, that's what he was in the games. Isn't that canon?
Thank you. Okay.
Because
there's like honestly, every game where you actually, like, when you interact with Bowser, that happens. I'm pretty sure that even in Mario RPG, I'm pretty sure that was a thing that was there.
Was it Mario 64? Wasn't he wearing like a top hat?
Odyssey, he's got like basically that suit that he had at the end was what he had, because he was trying to marry Peach, and they were using like the hats to control the whole mechanic of the game because he wanted to marry Peach. And Mario Sunshine, they convinced Bowser Jr. that Peach is his mom.
I thought that was canon.
I believe it's technically up in the air.
I mean, IMO Sunshine's the best Mario game, but
I like the Galaxy ones.
Yeah, I literally thought he was a simp. Like, I thought that was Bowser's thing.
Yeah, no, it was just, again, one of those video essayists that I saw saying that. I'm like, you're a fake gamer guy. All right, good to know that.
You're not crazy. I could have sworn that was canon.
Yeah,
and that's probably where that got inspired from.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's like, this did not come out of nowhere for me. Like, this is pretty much what I expect, because you're either going to go that way or you're gonna. No, that's really the only way you can go without having Peach captured beforehand. But then again, why was Peach captured in the first place? And if they did go that route, we wouldn't have the greatest Seke ever. This guy.
It would have required a completely different rewrite to make it a princess rescue arc.
Yeah.
It's because I couldn't foresee a reason why they would transition from Brooklyn to the Mushroom Kingdom and then go immediately to rescue the princess, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe people have a problem with it to rescue his brother, but what they did with the character, like, they didn't just swap the character and be like, oh, instead of the princess, how about it's Luigi, right?
Yeah.
Like, the character motivations of Mario are completely related to the fact that he's trying to rescue his brother.
Yeah.
Like, it actually fits within the story. It's not like they just made a switch for the heck of it.
Yeah. To give an idea of the type of setup that you need to have Peach be, to keep the isekai and have, the rescue the princess thing, is, again, going back to that live action Mario movie, where, Luigi meets Daisy, they get pulled in, then Daisy gets captured, so they go to save her. Like, there's just this whole extra layer that just doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, it's about removing that complexity, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the movie was trying to do some social commentary at any point. Like
Yeah.
the fact that I didn't get hit over the head about environmentalism or something just out of nowhere. It's like Bowser's sludge is actually killing the environment in the Mushroom Kingdom. Make sure to pick up your litter, kids. It was very refreshing. Like it didn't try to do anything except tell a simple but fun action adventure story.
Yeah.
And that is what I went in wanting as a mark of success.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my opinion of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good job. The only thing that I didn't like, besides a few of the things we've already talked about, is the fact that they didn't go with the like turning to stone. That one
Oh, I
power.
wanted that too.
Like that would have been fun in the Donkey Kong fight.
Mm,
But I guess Cat Mario is kind of newer and is more popular.
yeah. The other thing that I wanted to see with the power-ups was Tanuki Mario,
Mm.
because the original Tanuki Mario from Mario 3, because some of these younger kids probably don't understand that there was Raccoon Mario and Tanuki Mario.
Oh
Now
no,
they've
yeah.
just made it one. But Tanuki Mario could turn into a statue as a defense thing. And I almost expected that to just happen.
I thought you were gonna say the thing that Tanuki Mario was actually running around on his testicles, not his feet.
Yeah, that too.
The
No, I was trying to keep it within the game.
I'm pretty sure that's game canon.
I'm pretty sure that's just Tanuki canon. Uh, for those who don't know, Tanuki is a myth. I'm pretty sure it's just a mythical creature in Japan that's got really, really big balls.
Yeah, it's a raccoon with giant testicles. Yeah,
Like massive.
unless I missed it, I would have liked maybe more Easter eggs. And I'm sure there'll be like all the Easter eggs you missed in the Super Mario Brothers movie out by the end of the day. I wanted a few things like maybe like a piece of the Triforce and the wedding gifts, or maybe like uh, a model of the Wind Waker boat. These sort of things. Like I appreciate what you were saying beforehand that they did keep a lot of the references in the real world, which creates a nice separation.
Mhm.
Um, but the Easter eggs, when done right, I think are really fun, and I think it kind of lost steam.
Mm. Yeah, I kind of thought of something like that as well. I didn't see anything
Mhm.
either. I mean, granted, watched this in the theater. It's not like I've had a chance to go back and deep dive or anything like that, which if this was on video, I probably would, because I think it'd be kind of neat. I think for like the Triforce in particular is one that would have felt extremely out of place to me.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, yeah, they've had a portrait of Mario in the Zelda games, and I
Mm.
think they had Link, technically Link or Samus sleeping in Mario RPG.
Yeah, yeah.
But outside of Smash, they've never crossed over. And it was actually really jarring to have when they added Link and Hyrule into Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, I could see
Because
that.
they've always been separate, and that is a philosophy going back to both the game's original creation. Period.
Yeah, even during the Super Mario Super Show or whatever, those were very separate cartoons, right?
Yeah. And so this is going way back. So when Miyamoto was coming up with the games, it was literally, this is a Mario thing, this is a Zelda thing, never the two shall meet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why both these iconic franchises have clearly split, like right from the beginning. Mario is extremely linear. Zelda is the original open world. And for the most part, they've stuck with that. difference in the exploration
Mm-hmm.
and the way the games are. So I think that's why we wouldn't see anything like that.
Oh, I want to shift focus because you just said something.
Hmm. All right.
I agree with you. How linear the games are, especially in the way that they like express the story.
Mhm.
I think this is just another reason why they did Mario right. By keeping this story more simple, it keeps that linear feeling
Mhm.
and makes it more in line with the games themselves.
Yeah. I can't remember. Were you a Nintendo kid or a Sega kid?
Uh, I
You were
played
a
the
Sega kid,
I
weren't
played
you?
the good one.
All right. So considering there's a console war, that doesn't actually answer my question in any way, shape, or form.
I I had a Nintendo Entertainment System.
Mm.
I had Captain Skyhawk, Super Mario Brothers 3. Um, I had Bart versus the Space Mutants, and I
Top
had
tier.
the original gold cartridge Zelda, Zelda 1,
Yeah.
uh, which was a funnish game, like as far as games of that generation.
Mhm.
I had that for a while, and then I got a Genesis and a Game Gear. Man, the Game Gear was cool.
It was.
That being said, like, Grandma got me the Nintendo, and then my mom bought the Genesis secondhand, like way after its lifespan.
Right.
Well, not way after, but after its lifespan. I believe
Yeah.
the 64 was out when I got my Genesis.
Okay.
Bought it secondhand because we weren't the most financially up there, but it was super cool, and I played the crap out of it.
Hmm.
And then I got the Game Gear. I think that was like my first like immediate family purchased me this cool, super cool thing that
Hmm.
was expensive, and I played the crap out of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so that's. And then I sold my Nintendo and my Genesis store credit at a game store because I spent a bunch of saved money from birthdays and Christmases and stuff and got the original PlayStation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
And
you're kind of all over the place.
and then I started seeing this girl and we got this PlayStation 2. And then when we broke up, she took the PlayStation and I was PlayStation 2 and I was mad.
Yeah. I remember that.
And this is why PC gaming is the best kind of gaming.
I don't know, she could took your computer.
Not a bit sad.
Yeah. Alright. Yeah, so I was always a Nintendo kid. Like I didn't get the first PlayStation that I had was like near the end of the N64 life cycle. So the PlayStation 2 is already out.
Mm.
Like so I was way behind on that. Always Nintendo. So it's interesting because like it makes a difference with how some of the references are going to be brought out and such as well.
Mm.
But it's definitely one of those things that are iconic enough that you're going to know. You just might not realize. I couldn't remember if you did like the Super Nintendo or anything. It's like how much Super Mario World did you play and things like that.
I mean, if I had
I,
the Super Nintendo was a great system. If I had
yeah,
a Super Nintendo, I probably would have been a Nintendo kid.
yeah.
But honestly, the Genesis stuff and Sega CD and the Dreamcast were just all ahead of its time.
Oh, 100%.
So it like didn't take was weirdly cumbersome and expensive. So
And it's interesting. Like, and the other aspect too is like I've enjoyed the Sonic movies.
Mhm.
I think they were really well done. It's very interesting because there's so much more to work with Sonic because they always made it a character. I mean,
Mhm.
we had what 2 or 3 shows running simultaneously that were all different versions of Sonic. Yeah, it's just interesting to see
Oh yeah,
Nintendo actually do that.
and Sonic is a complex character. Runs fast and eats chili dogs. Spins sometimes. My guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but we had Sally.
Mm.
And I wish they'd bring back Princess Sally.
So to kind of bring this to an end, let's talk about the movie previews. Because I hadn't been to a live movie in a few times. And though I'm not like the biggest fan of Seth Rogen, the Turtles adaptation that's coming out actually interests me.
It'd be interesting. I think is there's like I know of like 3 different versions of the Turtles. And
Which
'cause I did
ones are
the-
dancing to Vanilla Ice?
man, those ones are awesome. And that's kind of the interesting thing. Is it's like my immediate thought is these aren't the characters that I know.
Mm,
And I think part of that comes from, I mean, the live action movies and even like the couple computer animated, like the couple computer animated ones,
yeah.
those were all one series. Like I think Sarah Michelle Gellar was like voicing one of them. Like that is one version of the Turtles. And that's kind of the one like that. And of course, just the 80s silly cartoon are the versions that come to mind. It's like, while I'm interested, I don't think they're a version of the Turtles that I recognize. And I feel like that would be jarring to me.
The thing is, I think that they've been reinvented so many times that it's something you can play with.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always found interesting about the Turtles was the TMNT movie, the first one, was actually very dark and
Mhm.
quite like emotionally sound.
Mm.
Like you could have replaced the Turtles with just dudes.
Yeah. Like you're talking like the original live
Yeah,
action,
the
right?
original live action.
Yeah. Well,
Whereas the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon that was going on at the time was very different characters.
the Turtles are they're such a weird they exist in such a weird zeitgeist because the comics were super dark.
Yeah,
Like the original comics that these were based off of. Like these were more in line with Sin City
yeah. You'd
than
expect
with
it more from like Image than you would like Marvel.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. But they're like, oh, these are cartoon characters. We can do something with this. So we had the the 80s, 90s cartoon, which was, very silly. Like iconic, but let's face it, it's kind of silly. And then you get that interesting merge where it's clear they want it to go mostly off the comics,
Mm.
but with a little bit of the characterization of the cartoons, just to kind of have that little bit of a bridge with that live action movie.
Mm.
Um, and unfortunately, I think in 2 and 3, they start going a bit more to the cartoony side as opposed to the comic side, which I kind of get because the target audience
Yeah.
was there. And I know that was actually a big thing with the original Turtles movie is um, parents, I think, like they didn't like it because it was more faithful to the comics.
Yeah.
And no one knew about the comics. I mean, yeah, there's just been so many different reimaginings of them
It's like
that
the new Turtles live action series that came out.
mm,
It's in the same vein as the Transformers for me. I enjoyed it because it was popcorn and dumb.
yeah,
Like that's why it's enjoyable.
yeah. But there's that computer animated one before, which I actually like
Mm.
before those ones that I actually enjoyed. Because again, it was that right crossover of the 2 versions of the Turtles that I know. And again, I think it was technically Turtles 4
Yeah.
in time. Really just where I'm at. It's not like Transformers or something where it's like, even though like the live action movies just said popcorn filler, Marky Mark being Marky Mark. Transformers as a brand in general hasn't had that characterization different. Like Optimus was still Optimus in the Michael Bay films.
Yeah.
So
Still Optimus and all the other, even Optimus Primal is Optimus.
yeah. So I was like, I know what I'm expecting of the characters there, and that's why it just feels I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely foreseeing it. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know where to set my expectations. It look it looks good.
And I mean, like, the story might be trash and it might do dumb things. Like, you can never tell, especially
Yeah,
with like being headed by Seth Rogen.
yeah.
It could be about crackheads breaking into his car, for all we know.
It could be. Um, though, if that was the case, it would be more in line with the original live action film.
Faithful adaptation.
Spider-Verse was the other trailer that I got.
You know what? I liked that Spider-Man, the first one,
Yeah,
and I'm kind of looking forward to the second one.
so am I.
It's
I mean, it's just fun seeing Gwen Stacy as well.
yeah.
And,
One
her not having her neck snapped while Spider-Man tries to save her.
mm, I also like the idea of like spider on spider action
Mhm. Yeah.
because in the Spider-Man zeitgeist, there's that problem with the fact that some people don't look at Miles as being like quote unquote Spider-Man.
Mhm.
And I think these new series of movies actually understand that.
Mhm.
And they're trying to illustrate that with the character. And I think this next film is going to be about Miles Morales discovering who he is as a Spider Man.
I think I agree with you. And Miles Morales is a very interesting Spider-Man. Of all of these attempts to rebrand a character, which they've done. We look at Ironheart, uh,
Mm-hmm.
for example, Miss Marvel slash Captain Marvel slash Marvel, right? All of these other characters with them, or you know, female Thor,
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff. Miles Morales in the Ultimates comics was always built as his own character,
Mm-hmm.
and because of how they've built that, one, it actually allows us to have this story that we can see with the Spider Verse ones, because he is a character, and I think is generally accepted as Spider Man because they made him a character first
Mm-hmm.
and then took over the mantle, as opposed to, yeah, we're just gonna change up the characters because we can.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people don't like the Miles Morales characters. Some of it is the concept of like a hand me down mantle.
Yeah.
Why can't you make a unique new character?
Mm.
Because of his demographic. Like the fact that his heritage is the way that it is, the fact that he's receiving Spider Man, they're treating it as if it's like the mantle of James Bond or the mantle of Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It, and I think you were eloquent in the way that you put it that they made him a character who is like adopted these Spider Man powers, right?
Yeah.
So I think people are kind of clouded in the way that Spider-Man works, especially when like we literally just had one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time that involved three completely different Spider-Mans.
Yep.
It's
And none of them were Ben Riley.
oh, but so I think that's why some people have a problem with it, either because they don't like changing the demographic of a character, or on the other hand of that same coin, tokenism, being like, you
Mm.
can be Spider-Man now. It's like,
Oh,
but I don't think it's either of those things.
yeah, I
Because
think that's a big part of it. So, I mean, within the Spider-Man universe, obviously, again, Scarlet Spider and Spider-Man
mhm,
was a big thing. Literally, they're both Parker. Go very different routes and have to come to that. They have to come to terms with that and figure out how they're going on. Wasn't a hand-me-down with Miles. And I think that's a big thing. It's a lot of people, this is generally people who don't really understand the comics.
mhm,
They just know Peter Parker. So I can understand. And there was that bit where they were trying to do the tokenism,
mhm,
right? And Stanley was very against the tokenism. It's like, no, I've made this character for a reason. So to to just have it as a direct hand me down would have been weird. Miles Morales isn't trying to be a black Peter Parker. He is Miles Morales.
That's what makes him Spider-Man, though.
Mhm.
So everybody likes Spider-Man, but part of the reason why is it's Peter Parker trying to do the best he can as he is while having this Spider-Man identity. And
Yeah.
that's how they translated it over to Miles Morales.
Mhm.
Saying Miles Morales isn't like a real Spider-Man is like saying, Spider-Man from Spider-Man 2099 isn't a real Spider-Man.
It's something that was always played with in Spider-Man, and you never hear these same complaints when, again, we talk about Spider-Girl, Mayday Parker, or Spider-Girl, did she go by Spider-Girl or Spider-Woman? I think she went by Spider-Girl. Spider-Gwen, you don't hear these same types of things, so
Mhm.
but I think in general, you don't hear that with Spider-Man
Mhm.
because they've always had that cross. It's Spider-Man is probably one of the most everyman heroes you have.
Oh, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
it's the thing, like, and it's the way that the original Spider-Man was set up. The fact that that event could happen to anyone. Radioactive spider bites you. You get radioactive spider blood, and then all of a sudden you're just a dude with real world problems who's trying to live by some type of code.
Yep.
And I think they translate it well. And I'm not even trying to justify why I like these Miles Morales movies. I think they're decent movies. They're fun.
Oh yeah.
They're enjoyable. And this
And they somehow
trailer,
managed to get the multiverse right, unlike, the movie that's called Multiverse of Madness.
I mean, the problem with that is Doctor Strange is a secondary character in his own movie.
Yeah.
That's the only problem I had with it.
Yeah.
I mean, like the dialogue wasn't all that good either, but
Oh, I have lots of problems with it, but
yeah, the
we're not talking
primary
about that one.
well, the primary problem is that he's a secondary character in his own movie.
Yeah.
But okay, well, yes, I would say, what would I say?
I would say on a scale of Mario 1 to Mario World, this was Mario 3.
Okay, Fiend. I'm gonna stop recording now.